Hi guys, Ingenium here. We're just making a video on the Lexus. This is a video on why you might want to buy a GS450H over some other car you're looking at. As you can see, it's cold outside, 3 degrees, and also this clock will now be known as the Rolexus. So one of the first reasons that you might want to consider a Lexus GS450H is the fact that it comes with a 2GR FSE. What does that mean? Basically, it's a 3.5 litre V6 that Toyota made. It isn't specific to Lexus. Toyota's obviously used it, but the fact that you pair that with the hybrid synergy drive or the hybrid, I mean, it just makes it a fantastic package. So the 3.5 litre V6 Lexus, they put in pretty much everything at a certain point. I don't know what year it came out, but it's a really smooth engine. It's the same engine that they put in the IS350. I think they put in the Camrys. I think they put it in some other Toyotas. These are mainly North American Toyotas, bearing in mind though. I don't think we really got many cars with the 2G RFSE here, which is really annoying because I think the IS350 would have been a fantastic car here. But anyway, so the 3.5 litre V6 is super smooth. You barely notice when it's on. You don't hear it rumbling or anything like that, and it's really smooth. Like I've driven V8s, like I'm talking about Mercedes and BMW V8s, and I would say that this V6 is about as smooth, if not smoother than those V8s. It's really smooth. I mean, like buttery smooth. Another good thing about this car is it came out at the time that direct injection was coming out as well. So all the direct injection in cars came out, like the IS250 had the 2.5 litre version of this engine, the GS300 had the 3 litre version of this engine, and other car manufacturers were making direct injection engines at this time as well. What they didn't realise was because the injectors weren't spraying fuel on the back of the ports, on the back of the valve, basically carbon would just start to build up. So although you're getting the increased efficiency of direct injection, lower emissions and all that sort of stuff, after 40, 50, 60, maybe even more thousand miles, a lot of these cars were getting carbon absolutely stuck onto the intake valves, and they were becoming undrivable. Obviously, as the carbon built up, they weren't sealing, things like that. BMWs had a lot of problems with this. I think Minis had a lot of problems with these as well. I think pretty much every car manufacturer that did start doing direct injection did get this problem, but it wasn't a problem that came from day one. It was obviously a lot after. So how did Toyota deal with that? Well, like I said, they did do the IS250 and the GS300, and those both had just direct injection, and those suffered the same problem. The 2GR FSE, the 3.5 litre V6 one, that had direct and port injection. I think they call it D4 injection or something like D4S, sorry, I think they call it super injection. So sometimes it'll run in port injection, and sometimes it'll run in direct injection. I don't know, I can't really tell the difference of the car. It must have its own parameters and when it chooses to do that. But by doing that, it supposedly increases efficiency, and it also stops the valves getting clogged up with carbon, because you are getting that port injection. So one of the only things that I can think of that's actually a negative of the D4S system, with being port and direct injection, is that this is a V6. So in a normal V6, you would have 6 injectors, whether it's 6 direct injectors or 6 port fuel injectors. This car has 12 injectors because it's got 6 springs directly into the inlet manifold, and 6 spring directly into the cylinders themselves. So you are doubling up on complexity and weight and all that kind of stuff. But again, it does produce a more efficient engine. So is it necessarily a bad thing? No, I don't think so. So I think it can actually be a good thing. One advantage of the 2GR FSE, or the 3.5 litre V6 in this car, is I don't think it's that heavy. I think it's an all aluminium engine, like for example a VQ35, or I think Mercedes had 3.5 litre V6s from this era as well. And those engines really aren't that heavy. For example, a VQ35 is lighter than an SR20. But anyway, so with an engine like this, considering it's not front wheel drive, they can tuck it a little bit further back, and they can also reduce the amount of weight on the front wheels. So even though this is a heavy car, it's about 2 tons, compared to my Honda Accord, which is a diesel, which is a big heavy lump, and it's actually quite forward, this feels a lot a lot better on the road. It doesn't feel nose heavy like you'd expect it to feel, considering that it's got a fairly large engine in it. So that is one real positive about that as well. And then obviously one of the main things that people buy the GS450H for is the performance. I mean, this thing is fast. It really is fast. You hear 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds or 5.2 seconds. I mean, different people say different things. And yeah, it maybe is about that time. But that doesn't feel that fast. It really doesn't. It feels fast when you are going maybe 50 and you're merging onto a motorway, or the speed limit changes, and you boot it then it just goes, it's like boosh, you're at the speed limit now. You think, wow, that's really quick. And it really, really is quick. It can be surprisingly quick. You put your foot down and it just goes. It really is fast. And I've owned some performance cars in my time. Nothing over 300 brake horsepower, but roughly around the 280 to 300 brake horsepower thingies. And I think this would give it a run for money. Maybe not lower speeds, maybe not below 60 miles an hour, but above 60 miles an hour, this thing really does pull. And it pulls hard. And it pulls really, really hard. And it keeps going. I mean, I'm not taking this thing that fast because I'm kind of scared. And I'm not really that sort of guy. But I can imagine if you took this on a unrestricted autobahn or something like this would probably keep going. And I imagine it'd be really nice as well. Even when you're going 70, 80 miles an hour, it's still very refined. So I'd imagine if he's going 100 plus miles an hour, it might still be quite refined. Like I says, I'm not brave enough to try any of that, but this car really is fast, and it's surprisingly fast for the size of it as well. So yeah. So another good thing about having the hybrid system as well is, because obviously that's one of the main parts of this car as well, because you can't, in the UK you can't buy the GS350. That would be a perfect car, but you can't get it in the UK. The only car you can get with the 3.5 litre V6 is the GS450H. So with the hybrid, you get the silent driving. I mean, that's a massive advantage. So you can be driving around and the engine will just cut out, and you can drive on battery power alone. I've had electric cars, so it's not like, oh wow, it's silent. And some hybrids, like for example the Hondas with the IMA and things like that, I mean, they are hybrids, but they won't be propelled by their own electric motors. They'll always have to have the internal combustion engine running. But this can run fully on batteries and stuff like that. I mean, there's not much range in it, but it is cool that you get the silent driving. And that is cool, but one thing that I really like about this car is it's got a start-stop system that actually works. So if you compare this to, for example, a start-stop system on a diesel or a petrol from maybe 2010, 2012, something like that, because I think that's when they were kind of starting to become big, they were horrible. I mean, like, you'd pull up to traffic lights and the car would go, and it was like, what the hell, the car's broken. And then you start up again, and it'd be like, whoa, I mean, it didn't sound that bad when it started on a cold morning. I mean, some start-stop systems were really kind of crude back then. But this one, let's just say you come to a junction, you're slowing down. As you slow down, it's regenerating. The engine will cut off. One, because this engine's so smooth, you don't feel it. Two, because of the hybrid and how the motors and stuff work, is that as you're slowing down then, so it's regenerating brakes back into the battery. So then when you're sitting there at traffic lights, your engine's not on. And then when the lights go green, or you want to pull out in a junction, so long as you're doing it gently enough, you'll leave on battery power, and only if you press down the throttle harder or you're going faster will the engine kick in again. And again, you barely see it. Sometimes you can feel it. I mean, you'll feel like a slight kind of thing, but nothing like jarring or anything like that. The only real way is by actually just looking at the screen and saying, oh, the engine's turned back on. I mean, that screen is absolutely fantastic. I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, that's the only way you can actually tell that the engine's come back on. So I think that is a massive plus of the hybrid thing. The other thing as well is I took this car, when I picked it up, it was about 300 miles to get it. And I averaged 39 miles per gallon on the motorway, which isn't fantastic. I'm not going to say that's fantastic. My Accord, which is a diesel, that got about 61, 62 miles per gallon. So it's terrible in comparison. But for a 3.5 litre V6, 340 brake horsepower, 2-ton barge, it's not that bad. 39 miles per gallon really isn't that bad, considering, the luxury, the power, the size of the car as well. I mean, it really isn't that bad. This is just like a kind of thing. But a friend of mine's got a 1 litre EcoBoost Focus. And he said he averaged 40 miles per gallon doing a similar sort of journey. So the fact that his car's got 125 brake horsepower, weighs a lot less, and is a 1 litre turbo, and it's a more modern engine as well. Whereas this is from 2007. It's got 340 brake horsepower. Fair enough, it's a hybrid, but still, you're getting 39 miles per gallon. That, I mean, I know what I'd rather be doing a long journey in, and it wouldn't be a Ford, and it wouldn't have a 1 litre EcoBoost in it either. But again, to come back to the hybrids point of thing as well, and this is obviously part of this engine as well, is that you get a lot of grunt from down low. But with the hybrid, it increases that as well. So if you're sitting at traffic lights and you floor it, or even if you just letting off smoothly, because electric motors give torque from 0 RPM or however they say it. I mean, they've got instant torque basically, and this 3.5 litre isn't lacking on torque either. You can make real kind of swift progress without even flooring it, without booting it. So one real personality that I like about this car is because it's got so much power. You don't really have to be flooring it and, this, that, that. No, it's like you can just press the throttle quarter of the way and be going as fast as you'll ever need. You don't really need much more power than that, and you can waft around like that. So it is quite fun driving like that, because the car doesn't really like to be thrown around. It does like to be drove like an old man car, but it's an old man car with a lot of power. So, and then the other good thing as well is, like I says again, with the hybrid system, because it's a hybrid, it's got regeneration. So that means when you're slowing down, rather than putting your foot on the brakes, it spins the generator, which charges the battery. And so instead of, rather than braking, which is if you accelerate it to expend energy, then braking, you're just losing the kinetic energy into heat. Rather than that, you're spinning the generator, which is getting a small percentage back of the energy that you expended to accelerate. Basically, you're getting free energy, kind of. So when you regen, it'll slow your car down because it's spinning a generator. It's kind of like engine braking, but because of that, you aren't pressing the brakes as often. It's nowhere near as like, you won't get as much regen as like an electric car in B mode or one pedal driving or anything like that. I mean, definitely not. But you're definitely getting a regen compared to petrol or diesel cars, because obviously they don't have regen. But when you let off the throttle in a petrol or diesel car, they'll slow down naturally with engine braking and all that kind of stuff. But with this, the engine will switch off. All the energy, or some of the energy, will tend to regen. And then when you got regen, you use your brakes a lot less often as well, because you are capturing that energy. So you need to change your brake pads less. You're getting more efficiency because your engine's switching off and you're charging your battery and all that sort of stuff. So it's all good things. It all helps for your MPG around town and all that stuff. So it is good. So the second reason I really like this car is the CVT. I know, shock horror. I mean, you go online, you read anything about CVTs, or you even just speak to anybody who knows anything about cars, and you say, I want this car, but it's a CVT, and everybody's like, CVTs, boo, they suck, they're crap, blah, blah, blah. But have they actually ever driven a car with a CVT in it? Or have they just listened to what somebody told them, or one car reviewer or something like that? Now, I know that Nissans and Hondas use CVTs, and I think some of them, the Jazz, they have some reliability issues, and I think some other cars have some reliability issues. And I don't know too much about them, but if they use the kind of bands as such, so it's like an expanding and shrinking kind of band, and I don't think they're as efficient or as reliable as the Toyota eCVT, because obviously it's a hybrid, so it uses planetary gears rather than bands. So again, I think that increases the reliability and the torque handling and all that stuff, because I mean, this is a fairly powerful car. In the in the LS600H, I think that's got close to 500 brake horsepower, if not more than 500 brake horsepower. So obviously they can handle some sort of power. One thing I love about the CVT then is, so you're just always in the right gear. There's no downshifting, no delays, no, like if you used to drive an automatic, you're coming down to, let's just say you're slowing down for a junction or something like that. As you slow down, the gears are slowing down as well, but they're not catching up. It takes like a little minute to kind of catch up, or a little second to catch up, should I say. So let's just say you come to a red light, you're slowing down, you've stopped, and then you feel maybe a second or two later the car kind of downshifting, like, oh, okay, right, you stopped now, or this, that, that. In this car, the CVT is just always ready to go. So again, if you are just driving along and it's a 30 mile per hour and now it's a 60 mile per hour zone, let's just say, in an automatic, you floor it, you go into kickdown, the engine obviously wants to rev high, the gears need to come down. It takes 1-2 seconds. In this Lexus with the CVT, you floor it and it's just ready, like it's pretty much in the right gear anyway. So you floor it and boom, the revs rise and you're gone. There's no delay. There's no, what gear should I be in? Oh, should I go down? Should I go up? I'm talking about older cars here. I think newer cars are much better, but I generally drive older cars because I'm poor. But anyway, I just really, really like it. It just seems to do what I want it to do. It's fast to react. And it's smooth as well. There's no gear shifting. And to be fair to BMWs and Mercedes and Audis, their automatic gearboxes are really nice. Even the older ones, even from this generation, 2008, 2009, they're still very smooth, very slick. But this is even better because no matter how smooth you make a transmission, having no gears is even better, if that makes sense. I know obviously that's not how CVTs work, but it is really, really, really smooth. And yeah, having that floor, bang, and you're gone, is really addictive as well. Especially on like a motorway, something like that. If you're a variable speed limit motorway and stuff like that, the car doesn't really have to think about what it does. As soon as you floor it, the revs will rise and you're just gone. The other good thing I like about that as well is that it generally tends to have low RPMs, especially at cruising or motorway speeds. So let's just say you're going 70 miles per hour down the motorway, which is the speed limit here, or 60 miles per hour, or whatever. The engine's revving super low. It's not setting at 3,000 RPM or anything like that. I don't know how the gearing kind of works exactly for how they get it that low, but the gearing is very, very like high, or and the car's revving very low. I've not driven this car, as I've said, that fast, but I can imagine if you took this on an autobahn and you're sitting at maybe 100, 120, it probably wouldn't be screaming. It'd probably just be very happy, and it probably wouldn't be revving that high. So the CVT, I really, really do like it. You get these there's a manual mode, so you can downshift and upshift. That's terrible. I think it's like simulating gears, but it doesn't suit the character of the car. It doesn't really work. And just having a CVT mode is just faster, or automatic mode is just faster. So anyway, I love the CVT. It's great.